We learnt that objects are visible because of the light getting reflected from their surfaces. This reflected light enters our eyes and we see that object. What happens inside the human eye when the light rays enter it? What is it that helps us see the things around us? The human eye is roughly spherical in shape. What we're going to do in this video is understand the different parts of the eye in short, not in extreme detail. Let's begin. The outer layer of the eye is called the cornea. It's white in color and transparent. Transparent? Yes, it means that it allows light to pass through it. In fact, cornea refracts or bends the light passing through it. And much of the refraction inside the eye is done by cornea. But wait, it not only refracts light but also protects the inner parts of the eye. It acts like a tough front wall of the eye, protecting the interior of the eye from accidents, and also does not allow foreign particles to enter. Okay, so this was all about the outer layer of the eye. Let's now talk about the things present inside. Behind the cornea, there's a dark muscular structure called the iris. Iris determines the color of the eye. For instance, when we say that a person has blue eyes, it means that the color of the iris of the person's eye is blue. Now there is a small opening at the center of the iris for the light to enter. Do you know what it's called? It's called the pupil. The iris actually acts like a shutter of a camera. It controls the amount of light entering the eye by enlarging or shrinking and thereby adjusting the size of the pupil. For example, when you focus the light from the torch directly into a person's eye, the iris shrinks. This is because the intensity of light is too much for the eyes to bear. The shrinking iris stops the unwanted light from entering through the pupil. And when there's less light, it expands, allowing more light to enter through the pupil. Okay, what happens next? The light that enters through the pupil falls on the lens kept behind. The lens is a convex lens. Convex lens is a lens which is thicker at the center than the edges. It's a converging lens. That is, it focuses all the light at one point. In a normal regular eye, this point is somewhere here on this inner boundary called retina. Why do I say a normal eye? Well, in a defective eye, this point of focus may lie either in front of the retina or behind the retina. We will talk about this defect of eye in our future videos, but first, let's go back to our normal eye where light is focused on the retina. Retina is at the back of the eye and marks the inner layer of the eyeball. Retina contains lots of nerve cells that sense the light. The nerve cells are of two kinds, namely cones, which are sensitive to bright light, and rods, which are sensitive to dim light. The message or sensation is then transferred to the brain along the optic nerve. Okay, let's quickly recap what we learned about the human eye. Human eye has a roughly spherical shape. The outer part of an eye, called the cornea, is a thick white transparent wall which protects the eye from accidents and keeps the foreign particles from entering inside. Behind the cornea, the colorful part of the eye, called the iris, is present. It has a small opening at the center called pupil. Iris controls the light entering through the pupil by contracting and expanding. Behind the pupil, there is a converging lens which focuses the light on retina. Retina consists of two types of nerve cells, namely cones and rods. They transfer the message through the optic nerve. There is a lot of information to digest. In the next video, we will talk more about this lens present inside the eye and will also discuss its functioning. In this video, we studied different parts of the human eye and their functions. In this video, we're going to roughly see how light propagates inside the eye and how we're able to see the objects around us. And for that, we will consider a simplified two-dimensional image of our eye. So how does light travel inside? Suppose we're looking at an object which is some distance away. Not too far away though. The light from that object enters our eye and falls on the cornea first. What is cornea? It is this curved and transparent outer layer guarding the entrance of the eye. First, the light is refracted by the cornea. This refracted light then travels to the transparent fluid present in between, which is also called the aqueous humor. From this fluid, light then enters the pupil and falls on the lens inside. This eye lens is a biconvex lens and it refracts the light such that all the light coming from a point on an object is focused on the retina. This is where the image is formed. Clearly, the image that you see is a real and inverted image. But wait, we don't really see the world around us being upside down, do we? We see everything as is because this image again gets upright in the brain. We know that these light signals travel through the optic nerve as impulses and travel to this part of the brain. It's known as the occipital lobe. However, before this light falls on the retina, it first travels in the space between the retina and the lens. This space is filled up with another transparent fluid called the vitreous humor. Yes, there's aqueous humor between the cornea and the lens, and there's vitreous humor between the lens and the retina. So this is how the light travels inside the eye. There are multiple refractions occurring inside. In fact, much of the refraction occurs before the light reaches the lens. Let me get a bit technical here. Look at the eye closely. What are the different mediums through which light travels before it reaches the retina? There's air, then there's cornea, then we have the aqueous humor, then the lens, and finally through the vitreous humor. And here are the approximate refractive indices of the media. Now, if you notice, the refractive indices of air and the cornea are largely different, whereas the others are not significantly different. Hence, most of the refraction that happens are the air-cornea interface. Refraction does occur at other interfaces too, but not as much as this interface. The lens also refracts the light. However, its main function is to make sure all the light from a point is focused on the retina only. Yes, it just fine-tunes all the light so that the image is formed on the retina and not anywhere else. But how does the lens do that? We have studied the properties of images formed by biconvex lens in the past. We know that for different positions of an object, the image is formed at different locations. But this does not happen inside the normal eye. The lens inside the eye always forms the image on the retina only, not in front or behind the retina. Why is that? This is because the size and the shape of this lens are not fixed. This is a flexible lens composed of fibrous jelly-like material. Therefore, the lens can temporarily change its shape up to a certain extent. But how? This movement of the lens is controlled by muscles called the ciliary muscles. One of the most widely accepted theories says that when the ciliary muscles are in a relaxed position, the lens is thinner and hence it has a larger focal length. And when these muscles contract, thickness increases and hence the focal length decreases. So when the object is nearer, the lens increases its thickness to form its image on the retina. For a faraway object, it becomes thin and the image is again formed on the retina. So that's the whole point. By adjusting its shape, the lens makes sure that the image is always formed on the retina only, not in front or behind the retina. The ability of the lens of the eye to adjust its focal length accordingly is called accommodation. Now obviously, there is some limit to which the lens can increase or decrease its focal length. One of the cases is when the object is too close to the normal eye. If you take an object very close to your eye, the image appears to be distorted. You will not be able to see the object clearly. This is because the image is not formed on the retina. In that case, we have to strain our eyes in order to view the object with clarity. When we strain our eyes, what we are actually doing is trying to reduce the focal length of the lens. We can try that, but we will still not be able to see the object clearly. So how should we fix that problem? The solution is simple. The object should be kept at such a distance from the eye that the image is formed on the retina only. This distance is called the minimum distance of the object from the eye, and for the normal eye, its value is around 25 centimeters. Okay, so what did we learn from this video? We learnt how the light propagates inside the eye. Most of the light is refracted at the air-cornea interface and then falls on the lens after travelling through aqueous humor. The lens then focuses all the light through the vitreous humor on the retina by adjusting its focal length. In the next video, we will study a few eye defects.